On January 24, 2023, members of the Bulletin of the Atomic Sciences moved the hand of the doomsday clock from 100 seconds to 90 seconds to midnight. And just recently, on January 28th, they moved the hand once more to 89 seconds to midnight. Since its creation in 1947, pointing at 7 minutes to midnight, the clock has been turned forwards and backwards according to developments in the field of atomic weapons, as well as changes in the political, technological, and environmental realms, factors which affect and threaten the future of our planet. There have been moments when the hands have been close to midnight, but never have they been closer to midnight than now, 89 seconds to midnight, a new record in the history of our Earth. This is not one of those records that you strive to set. It is a record which indicates the sad state of our world today as viewed by scientists. Of course, the time presented by this clock is symbolic in nature rather than literal. Otherwise, by the end of this video, the hands will have passed midnight. But the fact that such a clock exists at all, and that today it's closer than ever to midnight, is a clear indicator that scientists are worried about the future of our world. The end, according to them, is gradually approaching. Since 1991, when the clock pointed to 17 minutes to midnight, to today, the clock has moved only forwards with one minor exception. Ever closer to the final doomsday moment, as they call it. This progression has happened in the last 34 years. So what do we say about the next 30 years? Looking at this assessment, bearing this in mind, it is appropriate to ask ourselves, what time is it? How much time until the end? We don't have to look far to find signs that this world is beginning to burst at the seams. Just take a look around at what is going on. Violence is increasing, morality is in rapid decline, people are getting colder, tensions are rising, new wars are breaking out, and the weather is becoming more turbulent and destructive. This is what we see on the news and read in the newspapers. This is not a dark perspective on things, it is simply the reality of this world that we live in today. Seeing these signs reminds me of the description of the end of the world that is recorded in the Bible. It has a few things to say about the end of the world. Once, as the disciples were admiring the beautiful temple and the way in Jerusalem and the way the marble stones shined in the sunlight, they saw Jesus Christ coming out of the temple, and they decided to show him around the buildings, the grand design. It was built with huge, heavy marble stones that could not easily be moved. It took almost half a century to build this temple. And Christ says something very interesting to them. He says, "Do you not see all these things? Assuredly I say to you, not one stone shall be left here upon another that shall not be thrown down." Interesting. The disciples were speechless. How could this temple, with its huge, heavy stones, be destroyed? Did something happen to Jesus? Is he thinking straight? The text continues though. Let's read. "Now as he sat on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, 'Tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?'" Very interesting questions. The disciples asked two very important questions. When shall these things be, i.e. the destruction of the temple? And what shall be the sign of your coming and of the end of the world? Thinking that everything would happen at the same time, but they didn't realize that it was pertaining to two different times. And Christ answered both questions by intertwining the two answers to the two questions together into one answer. Of course, verses 15 to 20, they talk about the predictions of the temple being destroyed. And this, we find that actually was fulfilled in 70 AD under the rule of the Roman Emperor Titus. Exactly according to biblical predictions, this temple was demolished down to its foundations, and not one stone was left upon another. You can visit the Forum in Rome today, in which you can see Titus's arch, and there are depicted the Romans carrying away the relics of the Temple of Jerusalem away. So, with the demolition of the temple, one part of the prophecy of Jesus Christ was fulfilled. Yet there was another second part that concerns the end of the world, which was obviously not yet fulfilled, because there is a world today. Let's read about that event. And it says, "And you will hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in various places. All these are the beginnings of sorrows. Then many false prophets will rise up and deceive many." And then it says, "And because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold, and this gospel of the kingdom will be preached in all of the world as a witness to all of the nations, and then the end will come." According to the description, what time is it? Maybe you don't believe in the Bible, but many of the prophecies that are written in it have already been fulfilled. I will talk about this in future videos, so don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of those. So here is a very brief look over some of the signs that we read about in this text. The first sign that we read about is wars and rumors of war. World War II leads the statistics as the deadliest of all wars on record, and it happened only in the last 100 years. After COVID, several other wars broke out, innocent people dying every day, and millions displaced living as refugees in other countries. Some have lost everything. That is a fulfillment. A second sign is that hunger and earthquakes will be present. Today, every 11th person in the world and every 5th person in Africa suffers from food shortage. And that's according to the World Health Organization. The rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. Hunger remains and unfortunately is growing. Earthquakes are still happening in many places today. I remember the earthquake a few years ago in Turkey, when the earth opened up and houses broke down and killed people. In 2011, Fukushima, Japan, we had a tsunami, we had an earthquake, and the remnants of the destruction that happened there are still being catered to this day. The third sign is that false prophets and false Christs will appear. There is a long list of people who pretended to be Christ, who presented themselves as Christ and deceive others. And the list of other people that present themselves to be prophets, that one is even longer, just as predicted. The fourth sign is that love will grow cold. Another text in the Bible predicts exactly what people will be like in the time just before the end of the world. Let us read. "But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong. They will be haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than of God." Today we're witnesses of a huge moral degradation in our society. People who possess the above listed negative qualities are praised, whilst virtues are perceived as naivety and weakness. Of course, this does not pertain to every person. Rather, it is a prediction concerning the majority of the people. It is said that due to the growing lawlessness, people's love will grow cold. Moments like the Holocaust remind us of how cold-blooded humans just can be. Today people are being murdered in broad daylight. Children are committing crimes, unthinkable crimes that almost were not heard of before. The fifth sign is that the gospel will be preached throughout the whole earth. Today the word of God is being preached more widely than ever before in the history of the whole earth. This was a part of Christ's prophecy, that his church and his word would not fail, but would go around the whole world. The Bible is the book with the most prints and sales worldwide. Many people have tried to destroy it, but they have not succeeded. The fact that Christianity is so big today is not a coincidence, but a fulfillment of prophecy. And so, look around and ask yourself, what time is it? Many people today are looking to technology and science as their hope for a better world. Yet, despite the introduction of AI and ever better computers and technologies, the world is not becoming a better place to live in. The rich men of the world are looking at buying underground bunkers and towards the habitation of other planets as the answer to our problems. The Bible tells us that we are at the very end of the world history. No one believed that the temple would be destroyed, and yet that prediction came true. Christ also predicted that this world will end and what it will be like, which by all accounts it seems like we're very close to. What prevents it from happening also? The Bible speaks of good news as well, which will reach every person. It speaks of a heavenly kingdom which you and I can be part of, living a life eternal, unmarred by the evil of this world. The passage we read from earlier ends in the following manner. Let's read that. Then the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all of the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory, and he will send angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Who are his elect? Does God have favorite people that he picks to choose and save? The Bible says in another place, "For many are called, but few are chosen." The fact is that everyone is invited, but very few choose to respond to that invitation. That is why so few are chosen. Further study of the Bible reveals that they remove themselves from being of the chosen. Their fate is a sad one, to pass away with this world forever. However, there are good news. This does not have to happen to you and me. We do not need to fear or tremble about the end of the world. When Jesus was on this earth, he promised the following and has yet to break a promise. Let's read what it says. "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's houses are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you, I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may also be." You are invited to this heavenly kingdom, where a mansion is being prepared for everyone who accepts. Will you accept this invitation? Jesus Christ is eagerly awaiting your response today.